The moment I stepped into the Ritz Paris, I knew something was wrong. The crystal chandeliers sparkled too brightly, the marble floors gleamed too perfectly, and my best friend's smile seemed just a touch too wide. But I was jet-lagged and emotional, so I blamed it on travel fatigue and let Zlata pull me into a perfumed embrace. "Daisy, finally," she squealed, her designer heels clicking against the floor as she bounced on her toes. "I've missed you so much. You look absolutely gorgeous." I'm Daisy Hall, and I was about to learn the hard way that some fairy tales are actually horror stories in disguise. "The wedding preparations are going perfectly," Zlata gushed as she linked her arm through mine, leading me toward the elevator. "Wait until you see your room. I made sure you got one of the best suites." "You didn't have to," I started, but she waved away my protest with a manicured hand. "Nonsense. You're my oldest friend. Plus," she lowered her voice conspiratorially, "I have a feeling this trip is going to change your life." If I'd been more alert, I might have noticed the calculating glint in her eye. Instead, I was distracted by the opulence surrounding us and the surreal feeling of being reunited with my childhood best friend after 5 years apart. The suite was bigger than my entire apartment back home. I stood in the center of the room, spinning slowly to take in the gilt-edged mirrors, the plush furnishings, the view of the Paris skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. "Get changed," Zlata commanded, throwing open the wardrobe to reveal rows of designer dresses. "We have the rehearsal dinner in 2 hours, and you need to meet everyone." "These aren't mine," I protested, running my fingers over the silk and chiffon. "They are now. Consider them early bridesmaid gifts." She winked. "The black Chanel would look perfect on you." Before I could argue further, there was a knock at the door. Zlata's face lit up. "Perfect timing. Come in." The man who entered made my breath catch, not because he was handsome, though he was, but because of the way he looked at me. Like he owned me already. "So this is the famous Daisy," he said, his accent a subtle blend of Spanish and American. He took my hand, holding it a moment too long. "I'm Antonio, Zlata's brother. We've heard so much about you." "Funny," I said, gently extracting my hand. "Zlata's never mentioned you." He laughed, but something flickered in his eyes. "Well, we'll have plenty of time to get acquainted." The rehearsal dinner was a blur of champagne, introductions, and increasingly strange moments. Zlata's father, Thomas, kept watching me with an appraising look that made my skin crawl. The wedding planner, Stella, whispered something to Zlata that made them both glance at me and giggle. And Antonio never seemed to be more than 10 feet away. It wasn't until the toast began that the trap finally sprung. Antonio stood, commanding attention with a gentle tap of his glass. "I'd like to propose a toast," he announced, his voice carrying across the ornate dining room. "To my future wife." He paused, his eyes finding mine. "Who doesn't even know yet." The room fell silent. Every head turned toward me. Zlata reached for my hand under the table, squeezing it tight enough to hurt. "I don't understand," I said, but the words came out weak, barely a whisper. "Surprise," Zlata whispered back, her smile now clearly predatory. "You're not just here for my wedding, darling. You're here for yours too." The champagne turned to acid in my stomach as reality crashed down. The clothes, the suite, the way everyone had been watching me. I wasn't a guest. I was merchandise. I forced myself to smile, to laugh as if this was all some wonderful joke, but inside, something dark and angry began to unfurl. They thought they were writing my fairy tale. They had no idea they were casting themselves as the villains in their own nightmare. As the applause died down, I caught Antonio's triumphant smirk across the table and made a silent vow. This wouldn't be the story of how they trapped me. This would be the story of how they regretted ever trying. I cornered Zlata in the powder room 20 minutes later, my hands shaking as I gripped the marble countertop. "Tell me this is a joke," I demanded. "Tell me you didn't just arrange my marriage without my consent." She reapplied her lipstick, taking her time before answering. Daisy, sweetie, you're not seeing the bigger picture. Do you know how many women would kill to marry Antonio? Then let them. I'm not for sale, Zlata. Sale? She turned to face me, eyes flashing. Is that what you think this is? We're giving you everything. Wealth, status, security. You'll never have to worry about anything again. Except my freedom? My voice cracked. My choice? Choice? She laughed, the sound brittle. What choices did you have back home? A dead-end marketing job? A studio apartment you can barely afford? We're saving you. The bathroom door swung open. Antonio walked in, ignoring the women's room sign completely. He locked the door behind him. Ladies, he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I hope you're discussing happy things. I backed away, but found myself trapped between him and the wall. This is insane. You can't force someone to marry you. Force? He stepped closer, his cologne overwhelming in the small space. Daisy, I'm offering you the world, a life most people only dream of. All you have to do is say yes. And if I say no? His smile tightened. That would be unfortunate for everyone involved, including your sister Delaney. How is her art gallery doing? I heard startup businesses can be so fragile. My blood ran cold. The threat was clear. Antonio, Zlata warned softly, you promised to be gentle. I am being gentle, he replied, reaching out to touch my face. I jerked away. I'm giving her a choice. This isn't a choice, I spat. It's blackmail. It's business, he corrected, and family. Soon you'll understand how we operate. A knock at the door interrupted us. Everything okay in there? It was Cassandra, Zlata's cousin. Perfect, Zlata called back, then turned to me. Daisy, please, don't make a scene. Just sleep on it. Tomorrow you'll see things differently. I forced myself to nod, to appear compliant. They both relaxed slightly. That's my girl, Antonio said, and the possessive tone made my skin crawl. The moment they left, I locked myself in a stall and pulled out my phone with trembling fingers. I typed a message to Delaney. It's not a wedding. It's a hostage situation in designer heels. Need your help. Don't reply directly. They might be watching. But if you can get to Paris... I deleted the message 3 times before finally hitting send. Then I splashed cold water on my face, fixed my makeup, and walked back into the party like nothing was wrong. Thomas intercepted me before I could reach my seat. A word, dear? He guided me onto a quiet balcony. I understand this is unexpected, but you should know we've had our eye on you for years. Your potential, your background, you're perfect for our family. My background? Clean, respectable, no complications. He sipped his whiskey. The marriage contract is already drawn up, very generous terms. Contract? I felt sick. Standard procedure, we protect our assets. He patted my shoulder. Welcome to the family, Daisy. Don't disappoint us. I smiled and nodded, playing the role of the grateful, overwhelmed bride-to-be. But inside, something hardened. They thought they were buying a doll. They had no idea they were importing their own destruction. Back in my suite that night, I sat at the antique desk and began to plan. First rule of marketing: know your audience. I knew Zlata's weaknesses, her insecurities. I knew Antonio's ego would be his undoing. And I knew that every empire, no matter how grand, had its pressure points. My phone buzzed. A text from Delaney. Booking flight now. Hang tight, sis. We're going to burn it all down. I smiled in the darkness. They wanted a fairy tale wedding? I'd give them a cautionary tale instead. You're playing a dangerous game, Cassandra warned, stirring her espresso. We sat in a tiny cafe 3 blocks from the hotel, far enough to speak freely. The Valdez family doesn't take kindly to defiance. Neither do I replied, sliding my phone across the table. Look familiar? She glanced at the photo and paled. It showed her at a protest rally last year. the exact type of political activism the family desperately tried to hide. Where did you get this? I'm good at research. It's what I do. I took my phone back. Help me, and this stays buried. Cassandra laughed, but there was respect in her eyes. You learn fast, fine. What do you want to know? Everything, starting with Antonio's business dealings. She leaned forward. Most of it's technically legal. The marriages, the mergers, the money transfers. They use wedding celebrations to mask business consolidations. Antonio's had 3 almost weddings in the past 2 years. Almost? The brides usually disappear before the ceremony, paid off, threatened, or worse. She glanced around nervously. But you're different. They want you for keeps. Why me? Your reputation, your connections, your clean background makes you perfect for their image. She paused. And Brandon's been watching you. Brandon? Antonio's right-hand man. He's the one who suggested you to the family. He's also been sleeping with Zlata for years. Now that was interesting. I filed that information away for later. Speaking of Brandon, he chose that moment to walk into the cafe. His eyes widened when he saw us, but he recovered quickly. Ladies, he smiled, pulling up a chair. Discussing wedding details? Actually, I said, placing my hand on his arm, I was hoping to run into you. I have so many questions about joining the family business. Brandon's smile faltered slightly. He hadn't expected enthusiasm from me. Really? I thought you were more interested in marketing. Oh, I am. I leaned closer, letting my perfume do its work. That's why I'm fascinated by how the family handles their public image, their business strategies, their creative accounting. His face hardened. Careful, Daisy. Why? I just want to learn from the best. I batted my eyelashes. Unless there's something I shouldn't know? Cassandra watched our exchange like a tennis match, hiding a smirk behind her coffee cup. We should discuss this somewhere private, Brandon finally said. My suite? In an hour? I suggested innocently. After he left, Cassandra shook her head. You're either brilliant or suicidal. Maybe both. I stood up. Coming? An hour later, Brandon knocked on my suite door. I'd changed into a silk robe over a modest but flattering dress, suggestive but not obvious. I brought these, he said, holding up a stack of folders. Standard new family member briefing. How thoughtful. I gestured to the sitting area. Wine? 2 glasses later, Brandon was talking freely. The problem with Antonio is his ego. He thinks he's untouchable, but the Argentine deal nearly exposed everything. Argentine deal? His last almost bride, Maria. She threatened to go public about the money laundering. That's when Thomas decided they needed someone more controllable. I hid my anger behind a sip of wine. And Zlata? How does she feel about all this? Brandon's face softened. She doesn't have a choice either. None of us do. There are always choices, I said quietly. He looked at me then, really looked at me. You're not what they think you are you? No. I held his gaze. Are you? Before he could answer, I heard a key card in the door. I quickly messed up my hair and moved closer to Brandon just as Antonio walked in. His eyes took in the wine, our proximity, the folders scattered between us. Working late? Just getting to know the family business, I smiled, standing to kiss his cheek. Brandon's been so helpful. Antonio's jaw clenched. Brandon, out, now. After Brandon left, Antonio grabbed my arm. Don't play games with me, Daisy. I met his glare with wide, innocent eyes. I would never. I'm just trying to be the perfect wife you want me to be. He released me, but his suspicion remained. Good. Let him wonder. Let him worry. In his distraction, he didn't notice me pocket the folder labeled Dowry Asset Transfer, Hall Valdez Holdings. The game was on. The rehearsal dinner sparkled with false promises and champagne. I stood, glass in hand, aware of every camera phone pointed my way, every journalist scribbling notes. Zlata had insisted on media coverage. Her perfect wedding required an audience. When I first arrived in Paris, I began, my voice carrying across the hushed room. I thought I was here for a fairy tale, and in a way, I was right. I smiled at Antonio, though perhaps not the kind of fairy tale I expected. Tomas shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He knew what family stories could do to a reputation. Antonio swept me off my feet, I continued, letting my voice quaver with emotion. It was so unexpected, so overwhelming, like something from a movie. I paused, or perhaps a business merger. A few nervous laughs. Antonio's hand tightened around his glass. But that's what love is, isn't it? A merger of hearts, of families, of assets. I locked eyes with a financial reporter in the corner. Antonio has taught me so much about family business already, about international transactions, creative accounting, and the power of a well-timed wedding. Zlata's smile froze. Brandon coughed into his napkin. To my future husband, I raised my glass higher, who shows such dedication to his family's traditions, who believes so strongly in arranged marriages, arranged happiness, and who values loyalty above all else. I turned to Zlata. Isn't that right, dear friend? Zlata's face went pale. She knew what I had. Earlier that day, I'd cornered her in the bridal suite, phone recording in my pocket. Just tell me why, I demanded. Why me? Why like this? Because you were perfect, she'd snapped. Clean background, good family, marketable image. Do you know how hard it is to find someone who fits all the criteria? Someone who won't ask questions about the money transfers, the shell companies? So I'm just a convenient cover? You're an opportunity, she'd hissed. We're giving you everything. Everything except honesty. Honesty? She'd laughed bitterly. You want honesty? Fine. The wedding is a front. The marriage is a business transaction. And if you try to back out now, your sister's gallery will mysteriously burn down before it opens. Every word captured, every threat recorded. Now, standing at the rehearsal dinner, I watched Zlata realize what she'd done, what I had. But enough about business, I smiled brightly. Tonight is about love, about trust, about family secrets staying in the family. Right, Brandon? Brandon nearly choked on his wine. Across the table, his hand found Zlata's under the tablecloth, a gesture not lost on Antonio. Speaking of secrets, I continued, I have a special wedding gift being prepared. Something that will truly capture the spirit of this union. I can't wait to share it tomorrow. The threat was clear. Antonio stood abruptly. Perhaps we should move on to dessert. Oh, but I'm not finished, I protested sweetly. I haven't even mentioned the Argentine connection yet. The room went silent. Thomas's face turned red. Daisy, Antonio warned quietly. My love? I batted my eyelashes at him. Before he could respond, the doors burst open. My sister Delaney walked in, arm in arm with my old college roommate Isabella. Sorry we're late, Delaney announced. Traffic was terrible. Hope we didn't miss anything important. Not at all, I beamed. In fact, you're just in time for the real celebration to begin. I watched panic spread across the Valdez family's faces as they realized they'd lost control of their carefully orchestrated performance. Delaney's arrival wasn't in their script. Isabella's camera wasn't part of their plan. To new beginnings, I raised my glass one final time. And to Karma, who always keeps receipts. The evening dissolved into chaos after that, but I didn't care. Everything was falling into place. Later that night, as I prepared for bed, a small package arrived at my door. Inside was a USB drive and a note from Brandon. Insurance policy. Use it wisely. I plugged it into my laptop and smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with overwhelming evidence. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. Holy shit, Delaney whispered, scrolling through Zlata's hacked phone. Look at these photos. We huddled in my suite at 3 a.m., surrounded by laptops, phones, and empty coffee cups. Isabella whistled low as she examined the images. That's definitely Brandon and Zlata in Monaco last summer, she confirmed, while she was supposedly engaged to that Spanish diplomat. And these, Delaney swiped to another folder, are from Antonio's trip to Argentina with his other fiancée. The photos showed Antonio intimately embracing a stunning woman on a yacht. The timestamp matched exactly when he'd claimed to be closing a crucial business deal. Upload everything, I instructed, but don't send yet. A sharp knock at the door made us freeze. Isabella quickly shut the laptops as I answered. It was Stella, the wedding planner, looking furious in designer pajamas. Do you have any idea what time it is? She hissed. The wedding is in 8 hours and you're having some sort of slumber party? Just some girl time, I smiled. Wedding jitters. Don't play cute with me. She stepped into the room uninvited. I know what you're doing. The toast tonight, that little stunt with your sister showing up. You're trying to ruin everything I've spent months planning. Stella, I said quietly, do you really want to have this conversation? Is that a threat? No, it's a warning, from one professional to another. I pulled out my phone. Would your other clients like to know how you inflate their bills? Or how you take kickbacks from vendors? Her face went white. How did you... I'm very thorough. Now, unless you want to become part of tomorrow's exposé, I suggest you leave. She backed away, then stopped at the door. They'll destroy you for this. No, I corrected her. I'll destroy them. You can either be collateral damage or stay out of my way. After she left, Delaney slow clapped. Damn, sis. That was cold. I learned from the best. I turned back to our work. What else did you find? Isabella pulled up a document. Marriage certificates, 3 of them. All for Antonio, all within the last 2 years. Bigamy, Delaney noted. That's definitely illegal. So is this. I opened Brandon's USB drive. Complete records of every fraudulent transaction, every shell company, every bribed official. A soft knock interrupted us again. This time, it was Cassandra. Stella's running to Antonio right now, she reported, closing the door behind her. They're planning to have security remove you before the ceremony. I laughed. Let them try. You don't understand, Cassandra insisted. They're desperate. Desperate people do dangerous things. So do angry women, Delaney countered. We worked through the night, compiling evidence, preparing files, setting up automated emails. By dawn, everything was ready. I was about to catch a quick nap when one final message arrived from Antonio's other fiancée in Argentina. She'd received my anonymous tip and was more than happy to share her story with the press. Time to get ready, Isabella announced, pulling out her camera. The bride needs to look perfect for her big day. As my sister did my makeup and Isabella styled my hair, I felt strangely calm. The Valdez family had chosen me because I seemed controllable, predictable, safe. They never bothered to look deeper, to see the fire beneath the smile. A hotel employee delivered a small box to my door. Inside was a note from Antonio. Last chance to do this the easy way. I wrote back, You should have thought about that before you threatened my sister. Tucking the USB drive into my bouquet, I took one final look in the mirror. The white dress was perfect, the makeup flawless. I looked exactly like the bride they wanted me to be. Ready? Delaney asked, squeezing my hand. Almost. I placed a small envelope in Antonio's cufflink box, a USB drive and a note. Say I do, or I expose you. The church bells began to ring. In 3 hours, I would walk down the aisle. In 3 hours and 5 minutes, I would destroy an empire. Now I'm ready, I smiled. Let's go give them a wedding they'll never forget. The cathedral doors opened and Wagner's bridal chorus began to play. I gripped my bouquet tighter, feeling the USB drive press against my palm. Hundreds of faces turned to watch me, phones raised to capture the moment. Perfect. The bigger the audience, the better. Antonio waited at the altar, looking smugly victorious. Zlata stood beside him as maid of honor, her smile brittle. In the front row, Tomas nodded approvingly at my docile appearance. I began my walk, each step measured and graceful. Delaney caught my eye from her position near the audiovisual equipment. Isabella circled with her camera, capturing every angle. The priest began the ceremony. Dearly beloved, I let him get through the preliminaries, watching Antonio's confidence grow with each passing minute. He thought he'd won. They all did. If anyone knows any reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. I raised my hand. Actually, I have something to say. The priest blinked in surprise. Antonio's hand clamped around my wrist. Darling, he whispered through clenched teeth. Don't. I pulled free. Before we continue, I'd like to share a video. Consider it my wedding gift to the family. Security! Tomas started to stand. I wouldn't, Delaney called out cheerfully, pressing a button on her laptop. The cathedral's massive screens, installed for the benefit of the back rows, flickered to life. Zlata's voice filled the space. The wedding is a front. The marriage is a business transaction. The video continued, showing surveillance footage of Antonio with his other fiancés, documents revealing the money laundering scheme, photos of Brandon and Zlata's affair. Each revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Stop this! Antonio lunged for me, but Isabella stepped between us. Smile for the camera, she said, snapping photos of his rage. Journalists were already typing frantically on their phones. Guests murmured in growing horror. Thomas clutched his chest. You see, I addressed the crowd, my voice clear and steady. I was brought here under false pretenses, manipulated, threatened, and treated like property to be traded. But I'm not the first, just the first to fight back. You ungrateful bitch, Zlata hissed, raising her hand to slap me. I caught her wrist. Careful, dear friend, your mascara's running. Security finally reached us, but stopped short when Cassandra stepped forward. Touch her, she warned, and I release everything I know about the Dubai operation. The guards looked to Tomas for direction, but he was too busy having what appeared to be a mild cardiac episode. You've ruined everything, Antonio snarled. No, I corrected him. I've exposed everything. There's a difference. I turned to the assembled guests and media. The Valdez family built their empire on lies, threats, and forced marriages. Today, that empire falls. As if on cue, phones throughout the cathedral began buzzing. The automated emails had gone out, sending evidence to regulatory agencies, law enforcement, and media outlets worldwide. She's lying, Zlata screamed, but her mascara was indeed running now. It's all fake! Brandon stepped forward. No, it's not. He looked at Zlata. I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. The cathedral erupted in chaos. Guests rushed for the exits. Reporters shouted questions, and somewhere in the back, I heard sirens approaching. I walked calmly down the aisle, my white dress a stark contrast to the darkness I'd just exposed. At the doors, I turned back one last time. You gift a woman, I called out, my voice carrying over the pandemonium. She unwraps her wrath. Delaney fell into step beside me as we exited. Behind us, we could hear Thomas shouting for his lawyers, Zlata sobbing, and Antonio threatening everyone in sight. That, my sister said, was better than any movie ending I've ever seen. It's not quite the ending yet, I replied, checking my phone. Stock prices were already plummeting. News alerts were popping up. The Valdez empire was crumbling in real time. Outside, the Paris sunshine felt like a spotlight. Cameras flashed, reporters called my name, but I kept walking. Let them chase their story. I had given them plenty to work with. Right now, I had a celebration to plan, one that didn't involve any forced vows or hidden agendas. just sweet, sweet revenge served on a silver wedding platter. To the bride who wasn't, Isabella raised her champagne glass. And the empire that isn't anymore. We clinked glasses on the rooftop of her Paris apartment, the Eiffel Tower twinkling behind us. My phone buzzed constantly with news alerts, but I ignored them. The headlines told the story well enough. Valdez empire crumbles, fraud and forced marriages exposed. Stock plummets 60% as scandal rocks international business world. Multiple investigations launched into Valdez family dealings. Your story's gone viral, Delaney announced, scrolling through her tablet. You're trending in 6 countries. The wedding hashtag is not what they planned. Speaking of plans, Cassandra joined us, looking relaxed for the first time since I'd met her. The family's private jet just left for Switzerland. Thomas and Antonio fled an hour ago. And Zlata locked herself in the bridal suite. She's demanding her PR team fix this somehow. Cassandra rolled her eyes. She still doesn't get it. There's no fixing this. Brandon arrived next, carrying more champagne and looking slightly shell-shocked. The FBI just called. They want my testimony about the money laundering operations. Are you going to give it? I asked. He nodded. I'm done protecting them. We all are. He glanced at Cassandra, who smiled encouragingly. You know, Isabella mused, reviewing the photos on her camera, these would make an amazing documentary. How to Crash a Wedding, a guide to dismantling patriarchal power structures. Too long, Delaney critiqued. How about Don't Force the Bride? My phone rang. An unknown number. I answered on speaker. You'll regret this. Antonio's voice was tight with rage. You have no idea what you've started. Actually, I replied calmly, I know exactly what I've started. A revolution. How's Switzerland? He hung up. I saved the number under amusement. He's right about one thing, Brandon said. This isn't over. The investigations will take months, maybe years. Good. I kicked off my heels, still in my wedding dress. Let them spend years watching their empire crumble piece by piece. Cassandra raised her glass again. To Karma, she's a patient bitch. A text message lit up my phone from Stella, the wedding planner. My other clients are canceling. My reputation is ruined. I hope you're happy. Perfectly happy, I texted back, adding a smiley face emoji. The night grew cooler, but none of us wanted to leave. We ordered pizza, still in our formal wear, and watched the news coverage roll in. Each revelation brought new waves of scandal. Offshore accounts exposed, political bribes uncovered, more victims of their marriage schemes coming forward. You know what the best part is? Delaney said, stealing my last slice of pizza. They picked you because they thought you were weak, because you were nice and polite and played by the rules. Their rules, I corrected. Their mistake, Isabella added. Brandon's phone chimed. He read the message and let out a low whistle. The board just voted. Emergency removal of all Valdez family members from company positions. How the mighty fall, Cassandra murmured. They didn't fall, I said. They were pushed by every person they ever underestimated, threatened, or tried to control. A shooting star streaked across the Paris sky. We all watched it fade, lost in our own thoughts about power, justice, and consequences. What now? Isabella asked finally. Now? I stood up, wobbling slightly from champagne and exhaustion. Now we celebrate. Really celebrate. No hidden agendas, no power plays, no forced smiles. To freedom, Delaney declared. To truth, Brandon added. To karma, Cassandra echoed. To us, I finished. The family they never saw coming. We stayed on that rooftop until dawn, watching Paris wake up to a world where one more corrupt empire had fallen. My wedding dress was stained with pizza sauce and champagne, and I'd never felt more beautiful. As the sun rose, I received one final text from an Argentine number. Thank you for exposing them. You freed us all. I smiled, watching the morning light paint the city gold. They had tried to write my story for me, to cast me in their drama. Instead, I had rewritten the entire play, and this was just Act 1. The podcast host leaned forward, her eyes bright with interest. So, Daisy, what made you finally decide to tell your story? I adjusted my microphone, glancing at Delaney, who sat supportively in the corner of the studio. Because silence is what people like the Valdez family count on. Silence keeps their victims isolated, ashamed, controlled. And the legal implications didn't worry you? Truth is the best defense, I smiled. Plus, it's hard to sue someone when you're busy dealing with federal investigations. My phone buzzed. Another news alert. Antonio's arrest in Geneva. I showed it to Delaney, who gave me a thumbs up. Your story has inspired others to come forward, the host continued. The hashtag #I'mNotYourBride has gone viral. What would you say to those women? I'd say, your voice matters, your choice matters, and you're not alone. After the podcast, Delaney and I walked through Central Park, enjoying the autumn breeze. A courier approached with a familiar-looking cream envelope. Another wedding invitation? Delaney peered over my shoulder. I opened it and laughed. Brandon and Cassandra. They're getting married in Morocco. Now that's a wedding I'll actually enjoy attending. My phone rang. Isabella. Turn on CNN. They're covering Zlata's testimony. We rushed to the nearest cafe just in time to see Zlata, looking considerably less polished than usual, detailing her family's crimes to a congressional committee. The marriages were just the beginning, she was saying. Every transaction, every merger, every deal was built on manipulation and threats. Karma's really earning her paycheck, Delaney muttered. The bell above the cafe door chimed. A familiar figure walked in, Stella, the wedding planner. She froze when she saw me. Don't worry, I called out. I won't bite. She approached cautiously. I owe you an apology. I knew what they were doing. I helped them do it. And now? Now I'm planning legitimate weddings, small ones, real ones. She smiled weakly. Sometimes the smallest celebrations have the most truth in them. Back home, a package waited at my door. Inside was a single red heel and a note. To the woman who crashed the wedding, not the party. Love your fellow survivors. The shoe was signed by dozens of women, previous targets of the Valdez family's schemes. Each signature represented a story, a life reclaimed. Look at this, Delaney handed me her tablet. Brandon had sent us advance copies of his testimony documents. The final page read, To Daisy, who taught us all that the strongest chains are the ones we choose to break. My doorbell rang. Cassandra stood there grinning. Surprise! Thought you might want to help plan a wedding that's actually about love. We spent the evening looking at venues, laughing at the irony of planning another wedding. But this time, every choice was genuine, every detail authentic. You know what's funny? Cassandra said as we finished the wine. They thought they were buying your silence with luxury, but they gave you something much more valuable. What's that? A platform, a voice, a chance to change everything. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Thomas. You've destroyed my family. I typed back, No, your greed destroyed your family. I just exposed the truth. Delaney read over my shoulder. Think they'll ever understand? Probably not. I put my phone away. But that's not my problem anymore. The setting sun painted Manhattan in gold and shadow. Somewhere in Switzerland, Antonio was facing charges. Somewhere in Washington, Zlata was still testifying. And here, in my small apartment, surrounded by wedding magazines and evidence files, I was finally completely free. So, Cassandra raised her glass. What's next for the woman who took down an empire? I thought about the podcast, the messages from other survivors, the changes already rippling through the business world. Next, I smiled. We keep telling our stories, we keep breaking chains, we keep reminding them that some women aren't for sale. To freedom, Delaney toasted. To truth, Cassandra added. To us, I finished, and to all the stories yet to be told.